Hey kids, what does Adderall feel like? Adderall? Isn't that the same as meth? What was my first experience taking Adderall like? You're gonna find out coming up. So the day had finally come. It was time for me to start taking Adderall. That's what she decided to prescribe me first. Now, my doctor is very smart in how she provides these prescriptions. She started off with a rather low dose. I think it was 5 milligrams that she started me on. 5 milligrams of instant release Adderall. And you get that by taking a 10 milligram pill and splitting it in half. So she had me do that once a day just to see how I would tolerate it. I noticed a little bit, but it didn't do a whole lot. It wasn't this like, oh wow, the world looks so much different now. It wasn't this dramatic effect that I was really hoping for, actually. But it was a low dose. So you can't really judge it based on that. The idea with a good doctor, the idea is to what's called titrate you, basically gradually step you up from a low dose to a higher dose to find out where your tolerance is. And what I mean by tolerance is to see how you tolerate that medication and that dosage of medication. See, everybody reacts differently to these medications. There's no surefire, you take this and you're going to feel this. It's different for everybody. Everybody has their own unique experience. While it's unique to each individual, there are some overall similarities that most of us experience when we take a stimulant. Some of those are some of the negative side effects like irritability, restlessness, increased heart rate, sweat. You just sweat for no reason, kind of like a nervous sweat. And my experience through the titration wasn't much different. So I started off with the 5 milligrams, but eventually started working my way up till I got up to about 20 milligrams twice a day. So a total of 40 milligrams of instant release. And by that time, I was noticing a big difference. I could focus a lot better. And this all happened over the period of several weeks. This wasn't like 1 day, 2 day, 3 days. So it took a couple weeks to get up to 40 milligrams, 20 milligrams twice a day. But when I did, it was like a fog had been lifted from my head. Normally, I have all these thoughts that just race through my brain. And the best way I can describe it is they're like butterflies. It's like being surrounded by a swarm of butterflies, and you reach out to try to grab some, and you come up with none. You're just reaching out, just trying to grab just one of them. And they slip in between your fingers. You can see them, you can understand them, you know that they're there. They're very real, but yet you cannot grasp onto a single idea. And that is extremely frustrating because you know that you have the idea in your mind. It's not like you're clueless. It's not... See, some misconceptions about ADHD is that people think that you're stupid. They think that you're lazy. And it's very easy to label somebody with ADHD as such because they kind of present themselves that way. They can't find the answer to the question right away because it's buzzing around in their head. They have it, they just can't get a hold of it. And, geez, laziness. ADHD has so many motivational problems, it's not even funny. There was another comparison that I heard that having ADHD is like being the smartest, dumbest, most motivated, and laziest person in the world all at the same time. Just hearing that brought tears to my eyes the first time, because I can't tell you how true that feels. It's hard to imagine. Just imagine yourself wanting to do something. You want to do it. You want to get something done. You want to accomplish the thing. Whatever that thing is, you want to do it. But for some ungodly reason, you cannot get yourself to get off the couch and do it. You know it has to be done. You know it's important. You know that people are counting on you to do it. Yet, you cannot muster up enough energy to get it done. And to an outsider, that looks like laziness. But what's the definition of lazy? Look it up. It's being unwilling to put forth effort. Keyword being there, unwilling. And that brings me to another point about ADHD, and a misconception is that people think that it's all about willpower. That you just don't, you're not applying enough willpower. Willpower, first of all, is a myth. It doesn't exist. You may think it exists, but it doesn't. It all springs from motivation, which springs from your limbic brain and your emotions. If your emotions cannot communicate with your prefrontal cortex, your neocortex, which is the logic and reasoning side of your brain, the part of your brain that's responsible for organization, you cannot get yourself to do something that you're not motivated to do. Now, a neurotypical brain will easily be able to self-motivate themselves. Well, maybe not easy, maybe with a little bit of coaxing, but they can eventually talk themselves into doing something that they otherwise wouldn't want to do. An ADHD brain finds this to be damn near impossible. So that's my little rant about ADHD and some of the misconceptions. That's just a taste. I will later on have a video going over a lot of the misconceptions about ADHD and what it's truly like to have it. What it's like to experience it and to live it. But hey, you know what? You know something? A lot of those feelings that I had, a lot of that brain fog, that unmotivated feeling, a lot of that went away when I was on Adderall. And it was kind of amazing. For the first time in my life, I actually had some motivation. I knew what it was like to feel motivated to do something important that had to be done. I could do it. I could actually put myself up to the task and do it. And another thing that was a tremendous blessing to me was it helped my memory so much. For the longest time, I would curse my memory. I kind of would joke about this, but deep down I was actually scared of it. But I thought that I was having early onset Alzheimer's because my memory was just that bad. Now, these memory problems are things that everybody has experienced from time to time. We've all walked into another room and not remembered what the hell we're doing in there. We've all done that. Yeah, we've all done that from time to time. Imagine it being 90% of the time. And that's not an exaggeration. Over 90% of the time you walk into another room, you have no clue why you're there. And you have to walk back, trace your steps back to figure out what it was. Another one that's real fun, you introduce yourself to somebody, and they introduce themselves to you. By the time you let go of their hand, you've forgotten their name. And regardless of how many times you repeat it, no matter what word association game you want to play in your head, you can associate it with whatever the hell you want. You're not going to remember it. It's gone. Being asked to do something for somebody, you have every intention of providing that favor. You'll remind yourself of it. You'll tell yourself, okay, I got to pick this up from the store. I got to pick this up from the store. I got to pick this up from the store. I got to pick this up from the store. Oh, hey. And like that, it's gone. Forever, it's gone. You were thinking it. You were repeating it. You were doing the thing that everybody told you to do. Repeat it over and over and over again, and you won't forget it. Or here's my favorite one. If you cared, you would remember. I could punch somebody that says that. But yeah, my memory improved. And that was, like I said, that was something that was just, I couldn't believe that. I didn't know that my memory could get any better, and it did. That was, so I had some really great breakthrough moments with Adderall. It really helped me. However, there was a downside. And that downside was that it would rev me up so much that if I didn't have something to do, I was like a caged animal. I had to do something. I had to go. I had to move. Let's get this done. Whatever it is. Now, that's great when you have a project in front of you, but when you're sitting at a car dealership waiting for your oil to be changed, and you're just bouncing your leg, you're tapping your hands, I had a lot of irritability. The worst part was it made me get short-tempered with some of the people that I love, some of the people that are closest to me, and so that wasn't fun. But I pressed through it because I was told that some of those sensations would go away, and fortunately they did. Which brings me to another point of advice. If you are taking medication, first off, listen to your doctor. They're usually smarter than you about these things. But if you do have some negative symptoms, as long as they're not too much to bear, see if you can put up with them for a time. And if you're going a week, 2 weeks, and you're still having these problems, then it's probably time to talk to your doctor about switching medications. But it takes some time to adjust to these things. Your body's not used to it. You're introducing a new chemical to your body that it's not used to having. So sometimes there's an adjustment period. So after a while, I was finally put on extended release Adderall, and that worked well for me for a while. But then it started losing its effect, and I wound up switching over to Ritalin, and once again titrating from instant release at a low dose up to extended release at a higher dose. And that seemed to help for a while. I didn't have the irritability, which was nice. But after a while, it didn't quite have the same effect. So now what I'm taking is Vyvanse. And Vyvanse is similar to Adderall in that it's a mixed amphetamine salt. Ritalin is called methylphenidate, is the generic name for it. But the two stimulants that are out there are methylphenidate, which is Ritalin, and mixed amphetamine salts, which is Adderall and Vyvanse, and the newest one is called Mydayis. Unfortunately, I can't get a hold of that one because my insurance won't cover it. Bastards. But now, even with all this medication going on, it still wasn't quite enough. At least for my depression. Now, I had some things going good with my ADHD, but depression was still there. And I'll tell you what happened with that and what happened at work in the next video. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And until next time, take care of yourself and be well.